Hello, and thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to what we hope will be the start of a series of Facebook Live events where we will be focusing on digital embroidery and the mySewnet embroidery software in particular. So let me begin by introducing myself. My name's Karina Thompson. I'm a textile artist and embroiderer who's been using digital embroidery since 2007. I've been working with Husqvarna Viking UK for about the last 8 years doing sales support. I'm a betaware tester for the embroidery software, so I've spent many hours poking around the dark areas of the software, so I really know the embroidery software very well, and most importantly, if I'm not able to answer your questions, I certainly know somebody who can. So let's take a moment to talk about what we're going to be doing this morning. So in a moment I'm going to introduce you to the software, and I'm going to show you, going to be sharing with you some of my top tips and hints to get yourself going using the embroidery software. And that first section, I'm tailoring it so that it's aimed at those of you that perhaps are just interested in finding out a bit more about what the software can do, or perhaps you've got some software and you're not very confident, and give you some pointers on how to get started to produce some really great embroideries very, very simply. Then we're looking to move on, and actually then I'm going to showcase some of the more advanced features within mySewnet that some of you perhaps you've got experience of working with some of the earlier generations of our software, or even embroidery software made by other manufacturers, so that you can actually see some of the great features within the software, within mySewnet, that are new to mySewnet, and how you might be able to use those to improve your embroidery. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go to the software, and let me just check, is that okay? I forgot to mention, I've got my colleague Caroline here who's behind the scenes helping out, and what we would like is, please, if you have questions about the software, please will you pop them in the chat. Also, we would love to hear if you have any themes or topics that you would like us to cover in these Facebook Live events. Please put those in the chat as well. So now I am today I'm on a PC, but everything I show you you'll be able to do with a Mac. There are a couple of differences that I will point out as we go, and also I've got the ability to toggle between the silver level of the software and the platinum level, so I can showcase some of the great things that you can do with the silver level, which is our entry level of the paid for version of mySewnet, as well as showcasing the full potential of the platinum level. So this is what we would call the landing page, or the welcome page of mySewnet. This is what you see when you first open up. Now, some of you who are familiar with earlier versions of our software might notice that this is a new addition to the software. The reason why I'm sort of starting here and showcasing is over here, and I think this is a really useful feature. Basically, as you open up, it might be that you're opening up the software because, for instance, you know that you want to do a quick express monogram, or maybe you're going to make a quilt block, or maybe open up the new Spyro wizard, or do something like a project in the hoop. And if you know that that's what you want to do, you can actually open up the wizard from there, although on a Mac it's actually called an assistant. So that's a really nice time-saving reorganization of how you can access things within the software. But in actual fact, what I'm going to do, and because I've got this demo mode, I'm just going to open this up, and I'm going to open up the embroidery the silver level of the software, just to show you some of the differences, but also some of the great stuff that you can actually do. And straight away you can see that the wizards aren't there. And again, that's not a problem. I'm going to click because we're going to have a blank canvas. And the next thing that comes up is you get this hoop selection window. So what's actually happening here? Essentially the software is saying, so how big might your project be? And if you click on this little pull down arrow here, you will actually see that we have all the Husqvarna Viking embroidery machines listed here. So but also if I actually scroll down, you will see that we've also got a lot of machines here by other manufacturers. So it's possible. One thing that I very clearly want to state and want you guys to know is that you do not have to have a Husqvarna Viking embroidery machine to use the mySewnet embroidery software. Okay, and so for instance, let's for argument's sake say that I've got a Designer Jade 35. If I then click on this little pull down arrow here, these are all the hoops that are compatible with that machine, so that you can choose those. So that would be the accessories as well as the hoops that come with your machine. But in actual fact, I've got just going to scroll up to it, I have an Epic 2, and I'm going to choose my favourite hoop, which is this one down here, the crown hoop, the 260 by 200, and I'm just going to click on that. Now if you wanted to, you can actually build up a database of your own hoops, just so that you can very quickly access them. Anyway, so I'm going to click OK, and you can see that I have my hoop here in the workspace. And what I want to do is I want to introduce you to this tab up here that says Super Design. And the software has 2097 super designs that are built into the software. So these are designs that you can use, you can customize, you can build your own embroidery designs. They're there in the software for you to use. And I'm just going to take a moment just to scroll down and show you that huge variety. So you can see we've got a lot of animals, we've got line animal drawings, we've got silhouettes, we've got applique designs here, and it must be said, I know my two 7-year-old nephews really love the applique dinosaurs. They are great, they are amongst my favourites, although in actual fact they were in one of the earlier generations of our software. You can see that we've got borders in here, we've got fancy buttonholes, we've got cartoon characters, we've got faces, we've got embroideries to do with sort of celebrations, we've got childlike drawings. Like I say, there are, over 2,000 of these designs. We've got fancy corners, we've got designs for felting needles, we've got designs for twin needles, we've got designs for wing needles, we've got designs for the Encore feature. So these are really weeny teeny little designs, and hopefully will come on and I can showcase those. We've got fairies and monsters. It must be said, I absolutely love Oswald here. We've got lots and lots of flowers. We've got sort of household design stuff to do with coffee, food and drink. We've got hearts. We've got stuff to do with holidays, Christmas, Halloween. And again, let me come on. We've got designs to do with the home. Lots and lots of designs to do with music, either musical instruments or music notes. We've got redwork designs, religious symbols. We've got, again, lots of sporting designs, stars, and one of my favourites in here are the cars at the moment, and I absolutely love the VW Beetle. Let me just, there you go, camper van in there. and we've got trees, wreaths, and we've got some great zodiac designs. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up to the home section, and we are going to work with this pot plant design here, because I think when you're first getting started with embroidery, with sort of one of my top tips would be is set yourself sort of small projects, perhaps with an embroidery design, perhaps with a little bit of lettering, and that maybe you use them on ready-made objects like tea towels or aprons, bags, those kind of things, and just have a go stitching stuff out. And that way you'll actually see, you're going to learn and understand a lot more about how embroidery works. So I'm going to work on this. I'm going to, my colleague Caroline's had a fair bit of work done on a garden over the summer, that's fair to say. And so I'm going to make a little embroidery design for Caroline. Okay, so I know that this has been selected because can you see we've got this sort of green box around it. And I'm not going to change the size at the moment, and I'm just going to click apply. And I am going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see a little bit closer what's going on here. Okay, and you can see that the software has put that design into the center of my hoop. Now, I don't know if you can see that we have green handles on here, and green handles in mySewnet embroidery software means that basically the software has yet to kind of set the stitches. Let me explain a bit more. If this was a conventional embroidery design and I stretched it and I made it bigger, what would happen is the gap between those stitches would get bigger and bigger, and you'd probably see the background. It wouldn't necessarily look very good. And also, if I stretched it down and made my design smaller, what would actually happen is my embroidery would almost become really hard because the stitches would be on top of each other. The embroidery would almost be like bulletproof. I'd break needles, I'd break threads. Now, one of the great things about a super design is that at the moment the stitches have not been finalized. So over here on what is the design panel, we've got this little box here, and it's telling me that there's nearly 9,000 stitches here. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take the corner, and if I actually stretch this up and make this a much bigger design, you can see that in actual fact the software has recalculated it so that this is over 33,000 stitches in that. And again, likewise, if I make it fairly small, that's a little bit small because this design's got a satin outline. If I make it a little bit smaller, it's actually recalculating. It's almost like with a super design, the software hasn't finished cooking it. And so once you've made that commitment, you can carry on. It won't fix that number of stitches until you're at a stage where you're actually looking to stitch it out. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm actually going to just delete it because I'm going to be very specific with my size here, and I want this to be 8 centimeters high. So I'm going to put in my number, oh goodness me, of 80 mil up here, and then I'm going to click apply. So it's just made it a little bit bigger. And so what I want to do is I want to put some lettering on here. So I am going to click on the lettering tab. If I pull down on the arrow, let me show you that there are 245 fonts that are inbuilt into the mySewnet embroidery software. So there's all sorts of decorative fonts. You've got traditional fonts, you've got fonts that kind of look like handwriting, they've got some scary Halloween-y kind of fonts, we've got retro fonts, international fonts, we've got lots of decorative fonts, fonts that kind of look like sportswear, futuristic fonts. We've got fonts that you can use with puffy foam so that the embroidery stands out. The best example for that is almost like how you get on the embroidery on baseball caps. We've got lots of very decorative lettering that's great for monograms. And coming up here, my personal favourite, even though although there is a cat one, is the coloured dogs, which I absolutely love. But in actual fact, I am going to come back down and I am going to stick with this Art Deco font because I really like this one at the moment. And I am going to write in here, so I'm typing in the letterbox, Caroline's Garden. Okay, there is a spell check in there, so if you make a typo, it will pick that up. Okay, and the default is this horizontal block in here. So I'm going to stick with that, and I am going to click apply. And straight away you can see that I've got that text here, which if I want to, I can move that around. But let me show you a couple of other great things that you can do with the lettering. So what I'm going to do is, in actual fact, I'm going to take that space out and I'm going to hit return. And then I'm still on that horizontal block. I'm going to click apply. And that's actually put it down there, which actually I kind of quite like. I'm actually just going to delete that one out. But again, let me show you another way of working with this. So if I click on this pull down arrow here, you can see these are all the different shapes that if you wanted to, you could put your lettering into. And I really like the full circle. And so I am going to click apply. And let me just shift, oh goodness me, that bit of text out. And if I open this up, it'll be easier for you to see. And so what I've actually got is I've got a little bit of text, and I don't know if you can see we've got these green handles here that if I can pull them in, so I'm doing a left click and pulling down, and that will make essentially the circle that it's on much smaller or larger, and then I can actually move where that green block is to decide where I want my lettering. So wait a minute, let me, I'm just going to bring this in a little bit, just shift that over. And straight away, hopefully you can see, you know, how easy was that? I've got a totally unique, personalised embroidery. I'm just going to take this earlier bit of text out. Okay, so what I now can do, this is ready to stitch out. This is good to go. And so what I can do, I've got a couple of choices. Now, one of the great things, and this is revolutionary about the mySewnet embroidery software, is that there is this little button up here. Goodness me, I've lost my cursor. Up here. And if I click on this, I've got some choices. What I can do, if I wanted to, as part of having a mySewnet account, you get free cloud storage. So anybody that signs up for a mySewnet account, you don't have to commit any money to that. There's free cloud storage, so if I wanted to, I could send this design directly up to there. But in actual fact, I have got an Epic 2. And my Epic 2 is plugged in next to me, so I'm actually going to automatically send it to there. And I've got this message here that says sent to my machine, and this is where I hope this is going to work, but I'm going to click on my webcam, and here it's not very clear in terms, because we're in a little bit close, but it's basically saying that this computer wants to send a command to here. And I'm just going to minimize that, and you can see there is that embroidery design has been sent directly to my Epic. Okay, and so that means, you know, you can work away, you don't need to worry about your USB sticks. Okay, but it might be you say, well, that's great, Karina, but unfortunately I haven't got a Wi-Fi enabled machine. How do I, how do I get this onto my embroidery machine? So let me show you. It's very straightforward. So we go File and we go Export. And what I want to do is I'm going to just click on this pull down arrow here, and you can see all the main file formats for all the main embroidery machines are here. So if your machine, for instance, takes a PES or a PEC or perhaps a DST file, you can choose that. But for instance, let's say I'm working for, I've got my J35, takes prefers a VP3. I can choose that, and then I can go on, click OK, and put that onto my USB stick in the usual fashion, and that way I can get my design onto my machine ready for stitch out. Now, how easy, how straightforward was that? It's really simple. But I've got a couple of other things that I want to show. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is I am going to go, hopefully here. So I'm now in the platinum level of software. Okay, so you can't do what I'm about to show you with the silver. But it might be that you say, well, that's great, Karina. The super designs are great, but actually I want to create my own embroideries. Perhaps I want to take a logo or a clip art, a piece of artwork, and digitize it myself. So let me show you how you can go about doing that. So I'm going to click on the Create tab. I've got the Express Design button here, and I'm going to do Express Design into a rectangle. And my cursor's just changed slightly to, I've got a little rectangle box around it, and what I'm going to try and do is I am going to try and draw a box 5 centimeters square. Okay, and as I release that left click, the Express Design Wizard, or if you're on a Mac, it'll be an Express Designer system, will open up. And I'm going to leave the radio button checked for Create an Express embroidery. So I'm then going to click Next. And then the wizard is saying, so where are we going to get a picture from? Now in this case, I'm going to load a picture. And so I'm going to click on that. And I am going to use a picture from some of the free downloadable samples, and down at the sort of towards the end of these pictures we've got some sporty ones, and I am going to choose these table tennis rackets. So I'm going to click OK. Now what you can, in actual fact, if you wanted to, you could paste your picture direct, but please, just be aware that you must have the copyright to the image that you are digitizing. You can connect the software direct to your scanner or camera, and there is a drawing and painting module within the software if you want to create your picture from scratch. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to click Next. If I wanted to, I could edit that picture down, but I don't need to do that. I'm going to go Next. Now, can you remember I drew that sort of small box that I was hoping for? Goodness me, I'm bang on the money. And it's saying down here that yes, my width was exactly 50 mil. That's the first time that's actually happened, that I've got that right. So I'm going to click Next. And now what's happening is the software has automatically taken out the background, because if I wanted this, I mean, I can put the background back in if I want, but that would actually take quite a bit of time to stitch out all that blue. It would be extra thread, and in actual fact what I want is just that, just the logo of those table tennis rackets. So I'm going to then click Next, and then the software is going to begin to digitize this. And again, you can see that we've got that there. So I am going to click Finish, and here is my my table tennis racket in there. But just like before, so I'm going to go to my Letter tab. This time I'm going to choose another font, so I am going to come down here I really like the Avant-Garde. Now this is a new font that is new in mySewnet, and I've just changed the size up a little bit, just so that you know these little numbers here. This says that the software has optimized this font so that basically it will work best, in this case, between 5mm and 30mm. And I just want it a little bit bigger than 5mm, so I put in the 10mm. I'm going to keep this on the full circle, and then I am going to type in here I'm going to put a return in, table tennis team, and I'm very grateful that I can type without having to stick my tongue out like I usually do when I'm concentrating. And I'm going to pop this over here, and I'm just going to, a little bit smaller, let's have a little look. And you can see how quick was that. So this is a totally unique piece of embroidery, because I have created that embroidery from scratch. And then I've put that lettering in that can be changed. You know, hopefully you can see how easy and straightforward that was. But there's one more thing that I just want to showcase. I'm going to go to the View tab. Now again, this is only available in the Platinum level of the software. And I'm going to open up the background wizard. And I'm going to choose a garment. I'm going to go next. I'm going to load a background. And I'm going to click on ladies, and I am going to choose a polo t-shirt. We'll go with a medium size. And there's all sorts of colours here. I'm going to go with, let's go with that pale blue. And I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click Finish. And then what I need to do is I'm going to need to just zoom out a little bit to start off with. And then I am going to click Move and Rotate my background. And so I'm just going to pop that in, maybe just a tiny little bit across. And of course you can always use your arrow keys if you just need to kind of nudge your design a little bit. And I'm really happy with that. Now what I am going to do is, now Lifeview is a way of seeing your embroidery designs in situ, and that you can have a look at how that might look in terms of with the fill patterns and stitch direction. But one of the things I love about Lifeview is if I click on this, this will actually play like a little show reel that if I wanted to, I can actually share. So let's say I needed to, before I actually committed to stitching out that embroidery, perhaps somebody else needs to have a look at it, maybe my table tennis teammates, and you can see what a great tool this is for actually sharing your work before you actually then go ahead of stitching it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment now and just ask my colleague Caroline. Caroline, have we got any questions at the moment? Okay, that's fine. And okay, what I'm actually going to do is I'll just close this down. Okay, I am going to open up another window. So I'm going to go File, I'm going to go to New Window. In actual fact, I've made a mistake. What I want to do is I want to do this in the silver level. Because this is, so again, I'm going to open this up in silver because this is a great feature that is in across the board. So I'm going to say blank canvas. I'm going to keep my hoop the same. Okay, and I'm going to show you a really quick way to build a Christmas design that would be suitable for, say, a table runner or maybe a placemat. Really easy, quick way of working. So I'm going to go to Super Design, I am going to go all the way down to the bottom where there are the wreath designs up here, and I am going to choose this holly number 2. I'm not going to change the size. I'm going to click apply. Now what I'm actually going to do is I am going to just twist it. So let me just zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. So can you see we've got square handles on the corner. The little triangles actually mean that you can reverse your design if you want, and the round one here means that you can actually rotate it. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of rotate that up like that. I'm just going to zoom back out so that I can see what I'm doing next. Now what I'm now going to do is I'm going to go to the Encore feature. And I think Encore is really, really underestimated within mySewnet. I think this is a fabulous, fabulous trick, a way of making great designs that people think that you've spent loads of time doing, and in actual fact you haven't. Now what I'm going to do is the default is a circle, so I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to change the number over here, repeats to 12, and then I'm going to click preview. And what I then can do, as I move my cursor over, you'll see that it turns to sort of like a crosshair. And what I'm actually going to do a left click and just bring that in so those my holly leaves and berries are touching, they're not overlapping. Okay, and then I'm happy with that, so I'm then going to click apply. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to go back to my super design. I'm going to choose this second holly, the double one. Okay, and I'm going to click apply, and it's here in the center. It's a little bit tricky to see it, so I'm just going to pop that over there, and just like before, I'm just going to twist it so it's this leaf here is nearly horizontal. It's just slightly pointing up, and then I'm going to go back to my super designs, and I'm going to scroll all the way up to the Encore designs, which are up here, and I really like this flower, so I'm going to click on this and I'm going to click apply, and then I'm going to move this over and pop this in the center. And again, I'm just going to use my zoom to rectangle tool just so that I can see a little bit closer. Yep, I'm happy with that. Fabulous. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you a trick about combining them. Now if I hold down my shift key and click on both, oh goodness me, sorry, wrong key, my control or command key on a Mac, can you see I've got orange corners now on here, but this is a dotted line, and what that means is this has sort of been selected all, but I actually need to group them. So I'm going to go to the Home tab over here, and there is a button here that says Group. Now when I click this, look what happens to this dotted line. It becomes a straight line, and that means that that design has been grouped together. Okay, and that I'll show you why that's important. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to go back to my Encore tab. It's still as a circle and my repeats are still 12, and I'm going to click on preview. And just like before, I'm just going to bring this in a little bit so that they're close, they're not touching, but also what I can do is, can you see we've got this white handle here that if I do a left click and pull, you can actually turn that into an ellipse. And what I'm then going to do one last time, back to my super designs, my flowers still selected. Ah, goodness me, I know what I've done. I always make this mistake. I didn't click apply. So I'm just going to pull that back in. I'm going to pull that out. Goodness me, and then I'm going to click apply. Okay, fabulous. And now when I go back to Super Design, I'm just going to plop this little flower right in the center, bang. And for instance, because you can use the Lifeview feature in the silver level, it's just you can't see the backgrounds. And for instance, how great was that? How easy, how straightforward. You've got this lovely design that I've built from scratch. It looks really complicated, and you guys have seen how quick was that to do. Really straightforward. So if you are looking to kind of advance your skills using the mySewnet embroidery software, have a go playing around with the Encore feature. It's so easy. Okay, and again, I'm just going to actually I'll just pop that onto the kind of show reel, and I'll just ask Caroline. Caroline, have we had any questions through? Okay, so please do, if you have some questions, maybe there are some things within the software that you are wondering what they do. You know, please don't be shy about filling in a question in the chat. Okay, so on that note about sort of coming to terms and getting to grasp with the software, let me take a moment to talk about how you can find help in terms of using the software. So I'm just going to close that down. Now, one of the things that I love about mySewnet is it actually helps you sort of learn and answer those kind of questions. So for instance, I'm just going to go to the Home tab, because we've got loads and loads of all different sorts of boxes and questions up here. But for instance, if you're not sure about what a button does, put your cursor over it, and straight away, can you see we've got a dialog box that opens that says, in this case, rotate the selection 45 degrees clockwise. You know, the software will actually try and help you understand what buttons do. So for instance, if you don't know what Design Player does, can you see there's a text box that's telling us play through the stitches in an embroidery. So the first thing I would say to you, if you're not sure, put your cursor over it and see what the software says. The second thing is there's a tab here that says help, and actually if you click on this, this will open up the online manuals. So again, you can search, and there are quite detailed instructions about aspects in there. But there's two other places that I want to actually showcase, signpost you to, where you can find help about mySewnet. So I'm just going to open up my, so on the internet. So for instance, I talked earlier, so if I'd clicked on the that help tab, that's going to open up the mySewnet embroidery online manual, and you can see here, for instance, this is on parts of the software window. There's all sorts of stuff. There's a search feature, there's an A to Z, so there's all sorts of very detailed information. The second place that you might find useful is I have gone to mySewnet.com, and there is a knowledge centre here, and if you let me just refresh this page, because I've opened up, okay, goodness, and I've lost my cursor, here we go. So basically there's a series of software lessons in there, but also that there are software videos where they work through, every month there's a new lesson where you can actually learn about an aspect of the software, and there is a film for the software on a PC, and there's a film for the software on a Mac, so that you can work through that exercise. The other place that I'd like to sort of just draw your attention to is that in the UK we have our own YouTube channel. So this is mySewnetTM UK. We're taking a slightly different attitude in the UK to our YouTube videos. Our American colleagues their YouTube channel tends to have long 1 hour videos, whereas we're trying to go for much shorter videos. For instance, you can see most of these films along here, our recent ones, are under 10 minutes, where on the whole we're looking at a very specific aspect of the software. And so one thing that I would say to you is there's a film here on our Master the Basics of mySewnet Embroidery, which is about where to find help. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back into the software because what I want to do is talk about some of the more advanced features within mySewnet. Okay, so it might be that, for instance, you do a lot of things with embroidery software, but perhaps you're using one of the earlier generations of our software, or indeed software that's made by a competitor, and that you're interested in finding out what are the new features within mySewnet. Okay, and I've talked about some of them already at that earlier stage, talking about some of the basics. But what I've got here is I've got an embroidery that I've created within the software, and I want to sort of talk about some of those more advanced features. Now over here, I'm just going to click back onto the Home tab here, and one of the new features within mySewnet is over here, and that is the film strip. At the moment, we've got this orange box here. That's telling me that this is a group design. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to just click on Ungroup. Now, there was a film strip in earlier versions of our software, but you could only use it in the Digitizing module. One of the new things that's happened is that has now been rolled out across all aspects of the mySewnet embroidery software. And let me show you why this is a useful feature. So the film strip is basically a series of instructions of the order that those instructions are going to the machine on stitch out. So for example, in this case, the first step is an applique, and then the lettering happens. But for instance, let's say down here, I'm just going to select this little robin down here. If I actually pop him over there, if that was stitched out first, can you see that my robin actually is being covered up by this second stage here? And of course, I'm might not want that. So being able to rearrange the order that things are stitched out at. Let me give you another example. So for instance, if I moved up where the lettering, so what in actual fact would happen if I was stitching this out, it's going to stitch out my robin, then it's going to do the lettering, then it's going to cover them all with this applique, and that's going to be no good. So I'm just going to move that. So that's a really useful feature, being able to rearrange the stitch out order at an earlier stage. And in actual fact, I'm just going to send that robin back down, and I'm just going to pop him over here because there's a couple of other things that I want to talk about. So for instance, can you see we've got a series of little icons along here? Okay, and this is telling me that this is to do with lettering. Now we know that the stitch out quality of our lettering in mySewnet, we're market leaders in that. Okay, you can do really great stuff with our lettering. And so for instance, it might be you've got a design that you want to edit in some way. Now what I can do, I'm going to do a right click, and I've got the option here, edit lettering. So it might be that I want to say Happy Christmas, and it might be that I want to change my font. Let's actually do, I'm just going to scroll up to one of those other ones. So I know that Patricia's quite nice, although that's a little big at 15 mil, so I'm just going to click on that. And again, you can't really see that, so let me just, I'm going to, if I double click on here, I'm just going to change the colour there. So I could click on, yep, I'm happy with that white. So for instance, you can see how you could take maybe an existing embroidery, again, maybe like we talked about the logo, and that you can very easily just change the lettering as you go. Again, let me come down to my robin. Now this little icon here is showing me that this is a design object. I digitized this robin from scratch within the software, and it might be that actually I want to change the quality of that pattern fill, and let me show you what I mean. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see my robin here. Okay, oh goodness me. Okay, just going to select him, and then if I click on this, I can edit in Digitizing. Now, in earlier generations of our software, if I wanted to make an edit like this, what I would have to do is I'd have to essentially kind of open up the design file. I'd have to chop out this robin from my existing embroidery design, go back, open up the design file. I'd then have to make those edits, hope the edits were right, turn them into embroidery stitches, reload it, and at that point hope that I got it right. And what's happened, one of the big things, and I think this is in many ways the greatest development for me as an embroiderer using mySewnet, is the interconnectivity between the modules and the fact that I can be in one part of the software and make an edit elsewhere. And again, let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to edit in Digitizing. So this is going to open up the Digitizing module. In earlier generations of our software, that was called the Create module. And for instance, I'm just going to drop that back. This was the original artwork that I used to digitize this little fella. I'm just going to zoom in, so again that you can see a little more closely. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking to change this pattern fill in here. So I'm going to click on that. I am going to right click, open up properties. If I pull down on this arrow, I'm going to, for instance, change that pattern fill. I'm just going to move this over so I can click apply. Now, can you see that's changed that pattern fill? But one of the great things is down here is my original alongside. So it might be that I'm actually thinking, well, actually, I want something that's going to relate to this candy cane stripe. You know, maybe this isn't the right pattern fill, but I've still got my digitizing module open, so I can toggle back and I can go, well, okay, that isn't the right pattern fill. So I'm just going to, let's choose another one, and I quite like this one at the moment up here. Yeah, this little arrow, and I'm going to click apply. I'm actually going to click OK on that. So what I then can do, again, I'm going to toggle back and open up this one, and it might be I think, well, that's okay, but actually maybe I want maybe the angle's not quite right. So I can toggle back. I'm going to go to the Home tab, and if I do Edit Points and click on it, I can actually change the direction of that pattern fill. And again, I can go back and check, is that what I want? And if I'm happy with it at that stage, then I can click Finish. And that is a huge aspect of control that I didn't used to have. But it might be you say, well, that's great, Karina, but do you know what? I'm not into digitizing. That's just sort of too complicated for me. What I like doing is I like taking embroidery designs that maybe I've bought or maybe friends have digitized for me and combining those and doing stuff with that. And that's absolutely fine. So let me show you how you can edit and change those existing embroideries. So for instance, up here, this little icon here on this bell, and I'm just going to move over so you can see it a little bit clearer here. This bell, this icon here is telling me that this is an existing design. I didn't digitize this. This was part of the samples that are part of the free download samples that you can get from the download page of mySewnet.com. And let me show you how you can edit and change those. So what, again, just like before, I'm going to do a right click, and I've got the option here, edit in Stitch Editor. So I'm going to open that up. So basically, if I've created the embroidery design myself, I would go into the digitizing module. If it's an existing, if it's not a design object, so it's an embroidery design that maybe has been fixed, maybe it's somebody else's design, or maybe I've sort of turned it into a final embroidery design, I would edit it in the Stitch Editor. So let me show you some of the things that you can do in Stitch Editor. What I'm actually going to do is I'm down here on the slider, and I'm going to move this so that all that I can see is just the pink and silver stitches. So I'm moving that slider. Okay, so hopefully you can see we've just got those pink and silver bells, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Modify tab. I'm going to go over here to Morphing. I'm going to choose Twirl. Okay, because I think this is great fun, and I am going to put my pointer just in the middle of that pink line, and then I am going to do a click, and exactly the same over here, do a click. And can you see that I've actually sort of put that distortion in there? And what I can do is, just like before, I'm going to go back, and can you see I can actually see what's going on here. If I like how that looks, I can click Finish. And again, another feature, if I want to, let's edit this heart up here. So again, just like before, I'm going to do a right click, edit in Stitch Editor. It's going to open that up for me. Now this you can only do this in the gold or platinum levels of the software. I'm going to just zoom this in so you can see, and I really love doing this. So I'm going to take out that border at the moment, and then over here we have the Emboss Tool, and if I click on all, these are almost like sort of stamps where you can change a pattern of your pattern fill. So let me show you what I mean. I quite like this star, so I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to choose single stamp, and I don't know if you can see that's turned my pointer into that star. If I wanted to, I can make it a little bit bigger. Let's do that, and I am going to pop that in, and then I'm just going to click, and I've changed that emboss. If I want to have a look at how that's looking, I can come back to my original, think, yep, I like how that's looking. I could click Finish, or let me show you another thing that I could do. What I could do is I'm going to click on Remove Needle Points in Fill. So what that's actually done is that's taken all those stitches out. What essentially we've got is almost like the equivalent of long satin stitches. I'm going to do create a text stamp. Now if this was a bigger area, I could actually have whole words. I could put my whole name in here, but because that's a fairly small little heart, I'm just going to have a capital K, and of course if I click on the pull down, here are all the fonts that basically any true type, open type font that are in my computer. I could do that, but I'm really happy. I'm just going to stick with the Arial font. And can you see that has turned my stamp into a K, and I'm going to click on that, And again, one more thing that we can actually do is I'm going to do an embossed line. I've got a point line going on here, and what I'm actually going to do, oh, at this point I'm going to put my red line back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, put a series of little nodes in where I'm going to follow what's going on with that edge. I hope I can squeeze this in. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to draw my own embossing onto that area of fill. So you really, really can make stuff so totally unique. And I'm just going to put this last one in. Okay, what you can do is you can drag these, just tweaking this here, just so that I like how it's looking. Oh goodness me, we're not quite symmetrical. Okay, and then when I do a right click, that's actually put an embossed line in there. So if I then go back to my main embroidery, I can see if I'm happy with that, I can click finish. And again, hopefully you can see how much control you've got in terms of adapting your embroidery designs, either that you can go back using the that feature where you can either go back if it's a design object, if it's an embroidery that you've digitized yourself, or you can use the stitch editor to make those great editing changes. So hopefully you can see how much control that you've got over your abilities to create stuff using the mySewnet embroidery software. So I'm just going to take a moment, ask Caroline. Caroline, have we got any questions come in?
Very quiet.
No? Okay then. So what I will say to you is, you know, I hope you found this a useful session. Please, you know, if you do have any ideas or questions that you would like us to help you with, pop them in the chat. Please message us. Please also look out for our updated films on our YouTube channel. So that's mySewnetTM UK. And yep, I'll say no more, but say thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found this a useful session. Okay, goodbye, stay safe, and have a great day.